Garantizarles los boletos de avión más baratos, con descuentos en habitaciones de hotel, alquiler de carros y grandes ofertas en paquetes para cualquier lugar del mundo. No importa su destino, podemos ayudarle.
Gracias, Vuelos y Más.
¿Qué espera? Llame ya.
Have you ever had to hire multiple contractors? It is a daunting task that takes a lot of management time and impacts the core business or the company that time you're spent with your loved ones. At Texas Home Property Solutions, you can count on a responsible company that can tackle all your general contractor needs. Electricity, painting, remodeling, plumbing, air conditioning, and roofing. Hire us and forget it. With over 20 years of experience, Texas Home Property Solution will deliver your project on time and within budget, with the high level of quality and integrity, no matter the size or complexity. If you are a company, a government institution, or an individual who needs a general contractor, you need Texas Home Property Solution. Take a decisive step and call us today for a free consultation.
Hi, my name is Jen Potter, and I am the host of Networking Now. Today, I am joined by Brenda Hernandez, who is a dear friend of mine and an amazing woman entrepreneur. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my God, thank you, Jen, for the opportunity. It's such a pleasure being here with you.
Absolutely. And I'm just really excited that we're able to have a conversation outside of our normal conversations to talk a little bit more about business and the things that we do and why we do them. So I know everything about you, well, a lot of things about you, but if you want to tell our audience who you are and what you do, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, so it's always so hard to figure out the right words to introduce myself to the audience. But in a nutshell, I am Brenda, and I am a motivational speaker. I am a real estate investor, and I just recently started a professional home staging and Airbnb styling and consultant business. My passion is really just working with women and giving them or helping them find their confidence and helping them to really trust and believe in themselves.
And that's something that right out the gate that I feel like we connected on, right? And, you know, we haven't been friends for a crazy amount of time, but it almost felt like from the moment I met you, like we were long-term friends. And then come to find out we actually live right down the street together and our kids go to school together. So we had no idea when we met, and we actually met at a conference. So I was actually a speaker, and it was a conference that you were attending, and we just instantly connected. And it's amazing how that just kind of happens, right? And, you know, throughout all of these different journeys, we're able to connect on so many different levels. And one of the things that I found really intriguing was what you do for your business. And so one of the businesses that you've been doing for a pretty decent amount of time is real estate investment. So tell me a little bit about, you know, what that looks like. And there's a certain type of real estate investment and type of work that you do that I recently learned about. So if you want to tell everybody what that looks like.
Yeah, so it's so funny how it all started. It was all by pure coincidence. In around 2017, my partner Roger came home. He's an artist, and he was like, you know, I need to figure out what am I going to do if this well ever dried up. And so he came home one day and he's like, hey, I think that I want to start investing in real estate to really secure our future. And I really didn't know anything about real estate. I knew nothing about real estate, but my intuition immediately gave me a signal of like, whatever this is, you need to get into it. And so my response was, I'm all for it. Like, I want in. Like, how do I get into this? And he was like, all right, well, you're going to have to put in some capital contribution. I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do it, but I'm for it. Let's figure this out. So through just like doing my regular like praying and meditation, like I had an aha moment. I was like, you know what? I'm going to liquidate my 401k. And so I did exactly that. I contacted my 401k. I had a conversation with them, found out like what were the penalties, et cetera, et cetera. And I decided that for me, it just made sense to go that route. And so that actually allowed us to start buying our first multi-units in the state of Maine. Through that space, I really became super empowered because I no longer needed my full-time job to sustain me financially or to help sustain the families financially. And so around 2020, right around COVID, I started to grow super frustrated with corporate, and I felt limited, and I felt like I had so much more to give and was kind of being boxed. And so I sat with my partner, we had a conversation. He was like, listen, just leave your full-time job and let's focus and grow our real estate business. And so through that space, I was able to leave my full time. Roger and I had a second conversation after I left. And I said, I'm really digging this whole short-term rental space, this avenue. And so he's like, okay, well, let me buy you out of our portfolio. And then you take that money and you do what you want with it. And so that's exactly what we ended up doing. And that actually put me on the path to buying short-term rentals. And so today I own 7 short-term rentals. And through that space, I realized I had a real knack for interior design. And so then I was like, okay, I think I'm going to start a home staging and Airbnb styling business. And so last year I was like, okay, let me play with this, see how it goes. I worked with a few different clients. It really was growing and taking off. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to make this like a legit thing. And so in November of 2023, I started Designs by Her.
Which is so amazing because that's pretty much right around the time that we connected. So it was right at the time that you really started making all of these bigger changes.
Yeah.
And, I've been lucky enough to hear your full story and all of the things that you have gone through in the past to kind of get to where you were. But, it's funny because you said a coincidence, right? And I don't believe in coincidences.
I know.
You're exactly where you're supposed to be at all points in time, but that's just the hippie in me, right? And I know you believe that too. And it's funny because you put it out there and you're like, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And sometimes we don't know what that's going to look like, but life for you hasn't always been super easy. You made some really hard choices, and especially as a mom to kind of get to where you are. And I think one of the biggest things that has really inspired me, and through our conversations especially, is how you got to where you are, to where you are now, and where you're going to continue to go. So if you want to kind of dig a little bit into what that looked like for you to kind of make that big leap, because it wasn't something that just happened overnight. You made this decision because you've had to make hard decisions in your past, but in order to become that strong mom to change your life, your story is unique. So I know that you're not originally from here, right?
Correct. Yep. So my parents moved from Puerto Rico to Massachusetts when I was 4 years old. And as you can imagine, that was just like a huge culture shock. At the time, they didn't speak or write English. And so they had to learn how to navigate that. So got here when I was 4. Around the age of 15, they decided they wanted to move back to the island. And that was another culture shock because at that point, I lived in Taunton the majority of my life, spoke mostly English. And I had like my friends. And so it's like high school, you know, like we were like, okay, we're moving. So we move, and it was a big change for us because we ended up moving to the middle of the island where really there was nothing close by. Like the nearest mall was probably a 45-minute to an hour long drive. So it was very different from what I was accustomed. And immediately I just knew that that wasn't going to be my forever. Like something told me that there was more for me. And so what I ended up doing at the age of 15 is I went, opened up a savings account, and my mother would give me $10 a week for lunch money. And I actually started banking that money. Fast forward to when I turned 18 and high school officially informed that I was going to be graduating, I actually pulled out all of the money and went and booked a one-way ticket back to Massachusetts. And so, yeah, I remember going home and telling my mom, I'm leaving. And she's like, well, I don't support that. And I'm like, well, that's okay. I respect it, but I've already bought my ticket. And she was in shock. She's like, how did you have the money? Like she had no idea that I had been conjuring this plan since I was 15 years old. So, you know, mom trying to do her best. She was like, all right, well, I can't give you a lot, but here's $100. Like, you know, the doors are open if you ever need to come back. And I was like, thank you. I love you, but I'm not coming back. And so, yeah, I moved to Massachusetts. My best friend and her family received me with open arms, and it really just shaped my future and my path. And I realized, like now, when I tell this story, I was, it was just so brave. And I always knew to follow my instincts. I always knew to listen to my gut. And so as my life has continued to shape and form, I can't tell you I ever envisioned that I would be where I am today, Jen. It's really just allowing for me, God, to guide me to exactly where I need to be and to be brave enough to take that one step after the other. And yeah, there's been some ups and downs, most certainly. But now when I look back, I'm like, wow, what a journey and what a blessing.
Right. And we have to go through those things, right? And you started listening to yourself from a very early age. And I think this is where our connection really kind of got solidified, right? Where you made these changes, you listened to your gut. I was very similar, but I ignored a lot of those things as a young adult. I mean, I did kind of shape my own path, but you know, it took me a long time to really listen to those instincts. But one of the things that we connected on was one of the things that I focus on is following our gut instinct, right? Because I mean, that's what we naturally do. And but it's that gut instinct that I follow, that it wasn't the fact that we just had a connection. Your mom that, you know, you amaze me with all of the amazing things that you do. And one of the things that when we sat down, you're like, you need to meet my daughter. And it was just, you know, the funniest thing to me, because, and I get emotional when I think about it. I've said this to you several times. I don't know what it is. Every time I think about your daughter, I start to cry because I have, like, we form that connection and I'm watching her change. But you're like, you need to meet my daughter because at your age, you follow that gut. She knew that it existed, but she was ignoring it. And then the second she started to follow it, you know, me and her started to work together and we
Mm-hmm.
developed this amazing bond. And every time I see what she's doing, like watching her in her new career and watching what she's doing, and she's growing and learning, and she doesn't need me other than being a cheerleader for her. And that is like the biggest thing in the entire world for me. Like, it's so humbling, but it's so amazing because one of the things that I truly wanted to focus on was women empowerment and how that all kind of comes together. And that it was like this full circle. Like, your intuition was to talk to me and to have the conversations, and we made these
Mm-hmm.
amazing connections. And you know, we have so many amazing things that I want to continue to talk about, you know, when it comes to this, because she, you know, she is like that example of, you went through all of these things to prove to your daughter that you could change your life. You could find something better. You know, there's so much more out there for us. And the earlier you learn that in life, the more the more you're gonna to live and grow, right? Because I feel like sometimes it takes us a really long time to kind of get there, where you were 15 and you're like, if I bank all this stuff, like I'm out, peace, right? And I mean, I moved out when I was 17 too, so like I feel like, but mine was almost forced. So
Mm-hmm.
and my parents, like, they supported me but didn't support me, so it was like this weird, like, it was kind of very similar to you, right? Like, you
Mm-hmm.
have this opportunity but you're like, no, that's not what I'm supposed to do. And you listen to that, and it brought you through all of these stages and all of these amazing things that you've done. And I feel like we have so much more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper in all the things. So stay tuned, we'll be right back.
These are the top 3 questions I get from people about investing in real estate. How much money do I need to get to the next level? How do I find good properties to invest in? Can I even make money in this business when interest rates are so high? I answer these questions and many more in my online course, SFR University, where I show you the strategy that I used to build a multi-million-dollar real estate business in 4 years from scratch. Whether you're just starting out or someone who's looking to scale, this course will have something for you. Join us at sfruniversity.com. See you in the course.
Welcome back. I'm Jen Potter, the host of Networking Now, and I am joined again with Brenda Hernandez. Before the break, we started talking about the evolution of all of her businesses, where she was and where she is today. We talked a little bit about, why she started doing all of the things that she's doing and how it got her to where she is. And, one of the things that we were talking about right at the very end before we went to break was that I've connected with your daughter, and watching her grow and expand and really start to feel empowered by not just me and you, but the community around us, other amazing women in the community that are also helping her to grow and elevate. And the lessons that she has learned, that I've watched her witness, it's been incredible. And one of our first conversations was you telling me a little bit about your past, which we talked about, but the story that hit the most was why you do what you do for your daughter. And, I think both of us were even in tears when we were talking about it, right? Because, it hasn't always been easy, like you said. The road has its ebbs and flows, and, you were a single mom for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really important to recognize that, I always say the universe never gives us more than we can handle. And you have proven, strength and determination, and to help to shape her future. And I found that to be one of the most beautiful parts of the story. And I said it before, every time I talk about her, I get teary-eyed, and I'm going to start crying, because like she had just such an amazing impact, and still continues to have an impact on me even when I don't talk to her all the time. So if you want to kind of just talk a little bit about what that part of your journey looked like as a mom, and kind of going through all of that, because there are plenty of other moms that are going through that now, that hear that and know that you can get through it, right?
It's so funny, as you're talking, I can so feel like the genuine love that you have for her, and it just touches me and it fills me with emotion too. I was a single mom for many, many years, and I was in a very unhealthy relationship with Michaela's dad. When I left that relationship, I have to be really honest with you, and I have to be really honest with myself. I raised Kayla from a place of fear. And so, not knowing, I actually restricted her from thinking and being her truest self. When she turned 18, the wheels fell off. She was like, I am claiming me. I'm claiming my voice, and we are going to figure out like where I want to be. And it was really like interesting
Doesn't
to say,
that sound familiar?
yes,
Like, I mean, I'm just saying, like, after
Yeah,
hearing the
yeah.
first part of your story, I mean, it does sound a little bit familiar, like she's her mother's daughter.
Oh, she is my daughter, true and true. In the beginning, I didn't understand it, Jen. It was all very confusing to me because I thought like I was such a great mother. Like, what is going on? But then I realized like I navigated from a place of fear and I limited her in so many ways. And now she needed to find her independence. And so through that process, she made a very bold decision right from the beginning that she was not going to go to college. It just didn't call her attention. It wasn't something that she wanted to do. And so in the beginning, it was a little scary, like, okay, what is she going to do with her life? But just like me, she started just kind of doing the work and sitting with herself. And she realized like being an esthetician was something that she really could get behind. And so she's decided to go to school for that. And as she was growing and evolving and going through school, I had the opportunity to meet you. And you'd mentioned that you were coaching. And I thought, oh my God, like what a gift to be able to give my daughter someone that can really help her lay out her path. And one of the things that really resonated with me about you was you were all about helping people find and believe in their voice and follow their intuition, which is where I live, you know? And so
Right.
I was like, I have to connect them. I have to connect them. And it was the most beautiful gift that I ever could have given her because it really just helped her to start setting a path for herself. And it's just been such a beautiful journey, just to see her evolve and really hone in on her voice. And, you know, life being life, it's never straight. There's always, you know, some ups and some downs, but just to see the way she's navigating through those things, it's just been really beautiful and really powerful. And so to your point, like that's my mission now is just to really help her and other women and my 9-year-old like really believe in themselves and be able to speak their truth.
Which is, I think it's really amazing and important that, that we're able to see that. And, like you said, you were able to let go and let her kind of see that for herself, and me being able to be there to guide her, and
Yeah.
nothing more other than just saying, what is the decisions that you want to make? How is that going to shape your future, and where is it that you want to be, right? And there's a lot to it, but it's trusting that natural instinct of, this is what I want to do. And sometimes it's our own fears that kind of put us in
Yeah.
front of it, in front of ourselves. And even for myself included, as a woman who empowers other women all of the time, sometimes I get stuck too. And I have my moments, and I've had some of those moments where we stop and we go, wait, I'm the person who, shines this light for other people. Why am I having a hard time making a decision? Because it's
Ugh.
so easy to tell other people how easy it is to do something, but then when, the light is turned in the other direction, you're like, oh, I have to do this too. And for me, especially over the past several months, I have so many other things kind of going on in my life that, through her and a few of my other clients, they've shown me that I also need to trust myself when it comes to some things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this ongoing, buildup of how we encourage and grow with other women. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, every time I'm around you and or her or other women that like I surround myself with, I walk away and I feel like I'm floating, right? Like the last time we were together, like I felt like there was so much energy between us because we lift each other up, and
Mm-hmm.
truly say, like, what are we going to do to be the best possible versions of
Yeah.
ourselves? And we lift and we elevate. And that's how we connected in the first place. And that was kind of like the next thing that I really want to talk about, right? Like, I gave a motivational talk, and after I was done with the talk, we connected, and I met your daughter, and I got to know you. And then from there, we really started this other friendship of, what we do, how we grow, how we inspire. And part of one of the things that I do, obviously, I have a TV show, I run conferences, I speak all over the world. And I know that it's also part of what I'm supposed to do is give other women that same opportunity. And, you know, when I was doing my women's conference, we already booked all of our speakers, and it just so happened that someone backed out, right? And it was like the same week that you sent me a message and you're like, hey, if you need any more speakers, I'm here. And I felt awful because I was like, oh, we have a full roster, like we don't have enough room. And then all of a sudden somebody dropped off and you were able to jump on the conference. And I remember being that day, listening to your story and, you know, all of these amazing things, the feedback that I got. And, I'm not just saying this, like we sat there and we both cried when we were talking. And the impact that you have when you tell your story, it really impacted me. It impacts me every time I hear the story. I get goosebumps every time I hear it, because I know the impact that you're going to continue to have with women all around you. And so it's funny because I was asked to speak, right? I think I was away on vacation. I was asked to speak at one of the local universities. And as soon as she goes, if you're not available, do you know anybody else? And I called you right away. I remember that conversation. I actually think we were at a dance competition. That's where I was. And I remember calling you and going, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I got asked to speak and you were the first person that I thought of. I'm like, it's kind of last minute. Do you want to do it? And you're like, absolutely. And so it's really amazing when you meet and you can grow as a community, because I think that's how we're going to continue to grow and elevate everybody else around us, because it's just, you wanted to tell your story, and it's like you said, you put it out into the universe. Like, I'm a big believer. If you put it out to the universe and believe it existed, it exists. Right. And you said to me, you're like, I'm putting it out into the universe. And I'm like, here's all of these amazing opportunities. And so, it's been really amazing to be able to kind of watch you grow too. So it's like, I got like a twofer when I got like your whole family. So it's such an amazing experience for me, because I just love to watch other women find themselves and really step into their light, and then they just shine. I don't know. It makes me excited.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. You said something earlier, and it really just, like, if I could share anything with the audience and anything with every woman, is confidence. There's like this, there's this narrative that confidence is supposed to look a certain way. But I firmly feel at the age of 44 years old, is confidence is having fear, but still taking a leap. And that's really like on a day to day. When I sent you the message originally to say, hey, I'm wondering if you have any space for a speaker, I was nervous. I was like, what is she going to think? Does she think I have the capability? But I was like, you know what? I'm still going to do it. Like, my ego is going to create this whole story, and it can do that. That's fine. But I'm still going to get vulnerable, and I'm still going to ask the question. And so when you came back and you were like, we actually have a full roster right now, I was like, okay, no big deal. Like, at least I had the guts to do it. And then literally a few days later, you were like, guess what? Like, a spot just open, And that's literally how I navigate my life now, Jen. Like, I will have an idea, and then the ego comes in and starts filling me with all these thoughts and fears. And I'm like, you know what? They're there. I acknowledge that those fears and those voices are there, but I'm still going to get vulnerable, and I'm still going to do what I set out to do. And so that would be like the biggest thing that I would share with anyone is, it's okay to have doubts. It's okay to have fears. It's okay to have negative thoughts. What are you going to do with it?
Absolutely. And we can only control what we can control. We can't control how someone's going to react, right? And so when we take that leap, worst case scenario, somebody tells us no. And I was at a conference. It was actually before the last conference. I was at another conference, and the speaker actually said, it just means not right now. And then it was funny because our MC for the big women's conference that we had in the spring, just a few months ago, the MC is an author, and she gave out a book to everyone that is called Not Yet. And it's funny because I adapted this in the fall of last year, of when someone tells me no, it just means not right now. And then she hands me this book, and she's like, it just means not yet. It means that there's a certain time that those things are supposed to happen. So it's amazing how that happens and how we're able to kind of learn and grow from that. And worst case scenario, it just doesn't happen. Best case scenario, we get to do those things, right? It's like listening to that intuition, which I think is a really amazing thing.
And it's so interesting too, Jen, sorry to interrupt, but it's really amazing too, because sometimes you go in and you get vulnerable and you ask the question and that door might not open, but another door bigger could possibly open, you know? So it's what I'm learning is it never looks like what you thought it was going to look like. It's always so much bigger and more beautiful. And so again, it's so important to get vulnerable because you allow for that to transpire.
It really does. And I feel like we can talk about that forever, but we're wrapping up already. I can't believe it's already happened so fast. You know, I would love for you to tell everybody, you know, how they can get a hold of you, all of the things that you're working on and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm definitely full blown into growing my home staging business. It's growing, it's thriving, it's so exciting. You can see my work at www.designsbyher.net. And then you can also follow me on Instagram. It's DSIGNS_by_her.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And then if you have a hard time getting a hold of her, you can always contact me. It was a pleasure having you on. I look forward to having you on again in the future, talking about all of the things that you're continuing to work on. And I've personally seen a lot of the work that you've been doing. Every time you post, I'm like a stalker and I'm like following all of it because I'm like, that's what I want my house to look like, because that's not what my house looks like. And it just looks absolutely beautiful. So definitely follow her, pay attention to all the things that she's doing. This is just the beginning. I feel it. It's coming. You're doing amazing things. And I'm so grateful that you came on today. So thank you.
Jen, thank you so much. I absolutely just love you. You are such a supportive person. And I'm so like blessed that you've come into my life. And you're absolutely right. We are just scratching the surface. I know that there is so much ready to happen for us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, honey.
Attention timeshare owners. This is an urgent consumer alert from the Timeshare Exit Hotline, a national company specializing in helping consumers legally get out of their expensive timeshare contracts. We're offering you a way to legally get rid of your timeshare. So if you're fed up with the maintenance fees that keep on coming and want to learn if you can terminate your timeshare legally and permanently, call today. Call the number on your screen today. It's a free call.
Welcome back. I'm Jen Potter, host of Networking Now, and I am joined with Jennifer Hobson. I've had the pleasure of having her on our show quite a few times, and every time I have you on, I get super excited because I learn something new, and I always love our conversations. So thank you so much for coming on again today.
Thank you, Jen. I really enjoy being here.
Awesome. And that means a lot to me, right? And, you know, there are some listeners that may be new to the show and don't know who you are and what you do. So I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about, you know, what you do and all the things, and then we'll dive right in.
Absolutely. So the quickest version, I come from a retail background, corporate and stores. And in 2017, I actually started my network marketing business, and I was able to grow that and walk away from a 9-to-5 job that felt very suffocating at the time. That network marketing company allowed me to grow in so many different ways, really gave me belief in myself that I could do things I never thought I could. And what I did from there is I added another business, because why not have two? And I started Hobson Health. And then this year we've branched out and we're now doing business as Shine Up Coaching. And it's wellness and empowerment coaching. And I think that was really important for me, because I was so excited about the health coaching I was doing, supporting people and serving people to feel their best. But I really felt like I had more of a message to also empower people to have the right mindset, to speak into people and encourage them as much as I had been encouraged.
And I think that that's, that's one of the things that I've always adored about you right from the beginning is having that mindset of really helping to fill somebody else's cup so they can see for themselves that they are, there's so much more to us that we have to offer to people, but sometimes it takes somebody else pulling that out, right? And I had that done to myself, and it's why I continue to do it. And when we first connected, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're so similar because there's so many, like-minded thoughts and the way that we, interact with other women and other individuals, but at the same time, we do things that are completely different. So I always find that to be absolutely amazing because when we do things that are similar, but our backgrounds are different, it's what makes it so unique and awesome because we're able to contribute so many of the same things, but at the same time, put a different spin on it too, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and to harp on that and what we have been talking about in previous is that's where you've created a safe space. And I think that's what's important, especially for women, is we've been taught, not necessarily to be the most supportive of other women, or I can't succeed because you're succeeding. And that's the biggest lie that we've actually been told is that we can't succeed if someone else is already having success. The idea and the truth is that we can all succeed, and we're going to do it faster and bigger if we support one another.
And we've watched that happen between the two of us, right? So it's been, I think, in the fall, I think I would have known you for about a year. So it hasn't been like a crazy amount of time that we've known each other, but we've had so many in-depth conversations. I felt like I've known you for so much longer. And so it's such an amazing thing that, once you start to get to know somebody and it's more than superficial, and you really get to know who that person is, it doesn't matter how long you've known them for, because you really get to know who they are as a person. And I've had the pleasure to really get to know you, and again, every time I talk to you, I feel like, oh, I can learn so much more. I can't wait to have coffee and just learn so much more. And, when you surround yourself with other women who feel the exact same way, we're helping each other to grow and to elevate. And I think that that's really important because that's something that we both focus on, right? Like you said it right out the gate. You're like, we want to see other women grow. And we talked about that beforehand and why we do what we do. And I mean, you pretty much say it right in what you do with coaching. Like you are empowering women. And I have a conference called Empower because the whole purpose is to empower women, right? So it's like the universe brought us together, like not by coincidence, but I call it by universal design, right? Like we've come together and we're able to, help other people to grow and elevate. And I said this to you before, right? I actually think we met via Zoom in the fall, but we met in person at a vision board part of the conference. And it was really cool because we were able to connect in person, talk about the things that, we want to do in business and watching what you put in your vision board, but then also watching it start to come to life. So I think that part's been really beautiful because I've had that opportunity to kind of watch that and watch you grow as well. And I said this to you before. Like I know some of the other things that you're working on, and I got excited. Like you sent me that text message yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing, because but it's genuine, and I'm not just saying that to say that. Like I get goosebumps when I think about it. When other women are elevated, I want to grab your hand and I want to rise up. Like I want to take that next step and say, how can we help each other continue to grow? Because it's not hurting me. And if your success is hurting me, then, I need to reassess where I am in life. Yeah. Because I think it's so important that we recognize that your success is your success and mine is mine. And they may look similar, but they're also very different, right? Yeah. And our definitions are always going to be really different.
It's very true. Very true. And I think a couple of the things that you pointed out, saying the universe brings like-minded people to you. What I have to say about that is the universe is only going to do so much. You also kind of have to feed it the types of things you're looking for. So what's interesting is I try very, very hard, not hard, it's not hard work, right? But I try diligently to control what I watch, what I listen to, what I read, and the people I surround myself. And that includes social media. And If it doesn't serve me, I block it and move on. If a person, even if it makes me feel a certain way, I block it and move on. And I had really created an algorithm to where your conference showed itself to me, and that gave me the opportunity. And it's also identifying those opportunities, but not literally waiting for them to knock on your door. You go, okay, here's the opportunity. Let me take action and continue to put myself in front of the types of people that I want to be associated with, honestly, where they go, oh, you know what? I'm thinking about the gens. You're surrounded with a couple of gens, and because I want to be associated with these types of people. I don't really want to be associated with this type of person, and everybody's on their own growth journey. But for me, elevating myself, there's certain people that I want to be identified with, and the universe can only do so much. So you have to remember, you have to also feed it a little bit of what you're trying to accomplish. And like you said, yeah, when you click with someone, it doesn't take years and years to start to go in depth because you get to know them. And that for me, for a long time, was hard because it was hard to be vulnerable. And sometimes you have to be willing to be vulnerable to really connect with people and build a relationship, whether it's in business or in coaching or just side-by-side support. And I say it all the time, and this really came from my network marketing business because it's not something I experienced in corporate. It was, we're not all going to succeed unless I put my hand down and pull you up with me. And I think that's true of so many things. And we've just been taught time and time again of you have to climb your way to the top. Well, if you're climbing your way to the top, then you get to the top and there's no one with you. And also see, that's not really a great thing. And then on the other side of it is going, if you're focusing so much about what's going on in someone else's world, you're taking attention away from what you're trying to build. So yes, you want to lift up people and you want to involve them. You don't want to be focusing on what they have and what you don't have.
Right. You want to focus on what you truly have. And it's funny, I read something this morning and it was almost that verbatim, right? And I probably had to hear it for a reason. And whatever that reason was, and it could have been just to say this, right? And the reason is, or what it said is that, sometimes, when it comes to other things that are around you, and, you look around and you say, oh, I have this house and I have, it only has this many rooms and, it's not as big as my next door neighbors because they have a bigger house. What if you stopped and said, whoa, I have a house to live in. I have all of this abundance. Like I'm able to come home to a safe space. I have more than what I thought I would have had, and stop worrying about what the person's house next door looks like and really start thinking about what we have and why we're grateful for all of that. Right. And sometimes we lose sight of that. We lose sight of what we have and the gifts that we have in front of us because just like you said, everybody's journey is different. What I have and what you have are two completely different things. What I see, wealth and abundance, you may see completely different. And so being able to just recognize what that is for us and how we see it, I think is where the beauty comes in, right? Because
yeah, absolutely.
It's not how big your house is in the grand scheme of things. Who cares? That's more things I have to clean.
Yeah, well, for a person that has your cleaning company, right? It's still a deterrent. But I think I've said this so many times in coaching sessions, and I know it sounds, kind of cookie cutter, but comparison is the thief of joy. And I think if you actually take it back a step and go, well, first of all, why am I comparing? Am I doing it to distract myself and procrastinate from the things I'm trying to accomplish? And I actually am convincing myself that those are the things that I want. Because if you take a step back and go, would those things actually bring me happiness? Were those things even my goals to begin with? Some people, it's not my goal, like you said, to own a house with 10 bathrooms. I don't want to clean 10 bathrooms. But what are the meaningful things we're trying to create with business and family and all of the things? Is it quality connection? Is it time with each other? Is it vacations? What are the things that are actually important to you? And then it eliminates the idea of me having to compare things that don't even matter.
Right, because everybody's values are so different, and when we respect that in somebody else, it really makes us really change the way that we think. It changes the way that I think personally, because some of those things, people love their expensive pocketbooks. I have expensive pocketbooks. There's no difference to me a $20 pocketbook and a $2,000 pocketbook. It has the same purpose. One may look more expensive than the other, but in the grand scheme of things, it literally just holds my stuff. And so everybody has a different value when it comes to things. And so I think the more we really start to recognize that and stop holding on to, what's the words that I'm looking for? Just like the actual things. And start living our lives, I feel like our focus really changes. And I think a lot of that, as we've kind of got to know each other, those are the things that I've been focusing on for the past year. I've really just been focusing on, what things bring me joy and what do I consider abundant? Because like you said, it could be spending time with your family. I travel a lot for work. So when I'm home, that time is super important to me. Spending time with my kids, even though they drive me nuts, it's super important to me. So what is important to me? Because that's value. Like at the end of the day, I will gladly pay somebody to do something in my company so I can spend more time with my kids, or I can do, you know what I mean? So like everything is different. Like you even said it, right? You're like, you have a cleaning company, but the thought of having a big house is stressful. Yeah. Cause at the end of the day, I still got to pay somebody to clean it. So if I'm not doing it, somebody else has to clean it. Exactly. So, it's always like changing and, changing our mindset. And I think that's one of the things that I really adore about what you do is your focus is, changing the mindset, really being present, looking inward, and really helping people to see what their values and what their mindsets are. And, it's something that I just really love. And we're going to cut to our first break. And when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit more into what that looks like and also talk a little bit more about connections and empowering more people around us. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Welcome back. My name's Jen Potter, and I am joined with Jennifer Hobson. And before the break, we were talking about different ways that our businesses and our connections empower other women. And I just want to take a moment that during our break, we were talking about something super funny. We were talking about all the connections and what we wanted to talk about. And we were talking about our accents. And so Jennifer, who is from New England, myself included, and I had to just drop that I don't know how to properly pronounce my R's only when I'm recording, so I clean it up a little bit. So I thought it was really funny, and I just had to say it. So it was awesome. And so thank you so much for coming back on and talking about all the things that we're talking about and able to have our silly conversations. And, when we were talking about that on our break, we were talking about one of the other guests that we had today. And Brenda is also from the area. And even though we live relatively close to each other, you both didn't really know each other. And you were both on the conference that I created with a few of my other friends. And the two of you connected. I think maybe you knew each other just because you were speaking at the same conference. I don't even think you met on a Zoom call yet. And I get a message from both of you saying that you went and you were at somewhere together and you connected. And so tell me a little bit about, what that looked like and how the two of you connected, because I feel like, this whole purpose of growing and empowering, the two of you connected, you spoke at the same conference shoes, and then you connected after that. So tell me a little bit more.
So, this is one of those stories when you are talking about the universe, right? And you start to place people in your life, this is when it shows up for you. So my husband and I actually attended a charity event for a local charity, Taunton Diversity Network, and it's a sneaker ball, so it's a lot of fun, right? You get dressed up, but you still get to rock some kicks. And there was I would say it was at least 300 people there. And it was assigned tables, right? Which is great because my husband and I actually only knew one other couple and one other friend going in this sea of 350 people. So we sat down, and as a coach, right? And I'm an extroverted introvert in those situations. I will turn it on because I want to get to meet people, right? I always want to see who is a good person to make a connection with, who is a person I want to get to know them and their story. And the beautiful woman to my left, who you just had on your show, I met her and her beautiful family and got to know her. Her name was Brenda. And the typical question after you meet someone is, well, what do you do? Right? What do you do? And I said, well, I'm a wellness and empowerment coach. I'm also a motivational speaker, and I have a podcast. She said, that's amazing. I'm also a motivational speaker. I said, that's amazing. And I said, I'm actually going to be speaking next month at an Empower Your Epic Self. And she looked at me and she goes, so am I. Now, I'm reminding you, it's a room of 350 people, and I am sat leg to leg with this same woman that is also speaking. So that is when the universe shows up. And now I see her all the time. We attend the same networking groups. We're part of another group, Referrals from the Heart. We just saw each other on Monday. This is a person I didn't know from Adam previous to, that was just in February. And we're only in May, and we've had so many different connections. So the universe does drop people that are meant to be in your life. I don't know what purpose other than a really supportive, really friendly person, and maybe something in the future will happen. But I just like to know there's people out there that are also trying to do the same things that I am, right? You're not on Lost Lonely Island. There's other people, and I want her to be successful. So every time I can, I'm posting her stuff or liking her stuff because we know interaction was what brings followers.
And that just goes back to, you know, the whole purpose of everything that we do, right? And that, you know, bringing that person along, climbing up, but putting your hand down and pulling them up with you. You know, I'll always say it's the universe. There was no coincidence that the two of you were sitting side by side. And it could just be to say, oh, wow, there's someone who's just like me. Or maybe that there is more to that relationship as time grows. And if you know, foster that relationship, what is it going to grow and evolve into? And that can be said for, you know, our friendship and what that looks like. And because you never know what it's going to look like, but you know, at this moment, that was the person that was supposed to be in front of you. And you're going to continue to grow and to continue to evolve. And I love that, you know, supporting each other by, you know, liking the post, sharing the post, and right. And sometimes it's just that simple. Like when someone comments on your post and it's someone that, you know, you love and adore as a friend or, you know, a colleague, and they're like, wow, this really hit me today. Or, hey, go and check out this event. She's going and speaking there. You know, I might not be going there. I just did it yesterday with another friend. She has an event coming up and she's like, hey, I don't know if you can make this. She's like, let me know if you can make it. I'd love for you to attend. And I go, oh, I can't because I'm away. I said, but let me share it for you. And I know how awesome you are. So like other people should go and see you. And I think that that's what it's all about. Like at the end of the day is really just like pushing that love and support for our other friends and our colleagues, because
and I think it's funny because while we were sitting there talking about the event, you know, obviously your name came up, and this is where it shows up for the type of person you want to be perceived at. And both of us were like, Jen is awesome. She's so good. And I think that is a testament to who you are in the relationships that you've built. And that's always the type of person I want to be. And what you've shared with me before that has really stuck with me. You know, a lot of people, again, at networking meetings are like, well, what kind of person are you looking for to connect with for your business, a new client? And you said, you know, I don't usually answer it that way. You said, what I say is, whenever you think of me, let them know my name and connect me with them. And it wasn't in reference to a specific business or a specific event that you were having. And I think I've done that more times with you than anything because of the way you positioned that and say, or I just randomly text you and say, hey, your name was mentioned today, because I think that's notable, right? And saying, oh, you know, sometimes it gives you a little boost to say, oh, someone mentioned me today. Someone was thinking of me, or I came up in conversation. And I think we need to continue to do that for each other, because it's just those little dopamine hits, right? Someone was talking about me today. Somebody brought up my business. Somebody brought up my podcast, whatever it is. But all of these little things compound, and that's when we start to feel empowered.
I agree with you, and thank you. And the camera wasn't on me for that split second, but when you were talking, like my face turned like 10 shades of red, because it is like you said, it's like that little like dopamine hit. And I know why I do what I do, because I want other people to feel empowered and to step into their biggest possible self. And I have gotten to the point in my life where most of the time I do remove my ego from it, and I actually don't expect anything in return. And other than kind of what you said, when you think of me, that's the person that I want to talk to. If my name comes up in conversation, awesome. That's what I want to happen. I've worked so hard at, in the past of creating this reputation for myself. And then I got to this point in my life where I was like, wait, it's not about my reputation anymore. It's about my integrity. And it's about, helping other people. It's not about me. It's about, showcasing somebody else. And if you just happen to think of me, that's the person I'm supposed to talk to. And that has been something that really means something to me. And knowing that that was something that you got out of it and you use that, it's like, oh, this is why I do what I do. And I got excited and my face turned red and I was like, oh, that's like really sweet, because it did, like, it really, that's what really hits me, because at the end of the day it is. And when I mention somebody, I'm like, hey, just to let you know, your name came up today, you might reach out to somebody. And I think that that's what it's all about. And it just, I don't know, I get excited.
No, I think you're absolutely right. There's a difference. You can talk about success, especially in business, a lot, and a lot of people antiquate it with a dollar, right? I'm successful because I've made $1 million. Where I want to make money, that's part of it, but I also want to know how I made people feel.
Yes.
I want to know how I made them feel. If I can take the ego out of it, and my success is based on how many people I've been able to pay forward empowerment, pay forward their health journey, that's really where I want to put the bar for my success. And actually, my husband, he actually shared this with me yesterday, and I congratulated him. He actually has someone leaving his business that works underneath him. And I congratulated him because this person came to him and said, I knew you would be so excited for me that I got this opportunity. And that's the kind of person I always want to be. If you're in, a corporate structure, you don't have your own business, but you can still empower other people, and that they're excited to come and tell you to give their 2-week notice, right? They know you're going to be happy for them. That's such a different experience than saying, oh, well, now you're just leaving me. Now you're back to your own ego. You have to take your ego out of it and say, how did I support you? How did I serve you? And where are you going to go from here? And are you going to think of me when you're there?
Right. And I, I'm going to say how much I love that, because as a person who owns several businesses, that is what I say to everybody that comes on board, that I want to be your biggest supporter. I want to be your reference on your next job. And I have plenty of people that have worked for me that are, they go out and look for another job and they're like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, like, I put you as a reference. I'm like, always use me as a reference. Just give me a heads up and give me a 2-week notice. Like, I will always be there to support you. And, some people look at me and they're like, do you really mean that? And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And, I've hired thousands of people, and those who work for me directly, a lot of my employees actually never want to leave. And it's funny because what they say to me, they're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to meet anybody who feels exactly the same way you feel. And I was like, well, you never know. I said, but I know that everything in life isn't permanent. Here's a stepping stone. And if you get another opportunity, they can pay you more, they give you more hours, whatever that may look like. I want to support you the best I can, because that's my job. Like, I know that without a shadow of a doubt, and I mean this in the most humbling way possible, I am a servant in the fact that I am supposed to help other people. That, just like you said, financially, yes, if I thought about money, my brain would be completely somewhere else. But I know it's not about the dollar sign. It is about how many people I can truly help. When I started all of my businesses, I went into debt to give somebody else a full-time position, and I took zero for the first few years. I actually just recently started paying myself because I was like, oh, I probably should get paid. And it wasn't that, it's not that I don't need the money. I do, but I also know that I'm able to pour into somebody else's opportunity. When an employee looks at you and says, if I didn't have this job, I wouldn't have been able to buy a house. Like, I helped to create that. And I don't need to boast about it. But at the same time, in my heart, I'm just like, I gave this person an opportunity. And my whole purpose in my life is to give other people opportunities. It's why I work with, employment agencies and stuff like that, because I feel like giving back to people and pouring into them is exactly what I personally should be doing, right? Like, and we do it in so many different levels, but it's such a beautiful thing. And I get so excited about it because financially, sometimes I wish I thought about the dollar. Sometimes I was like, it would be nice to have all of this money in my bank. But at the end of the day, the only reason why I want to do it is to give it back. Like I always said, I can't wait to someday just have all of this money just so I could give it back. Like so that's my goal. Like my goal someday is to be able to make more money in order to put it back into the community.
Well, and I think the compound effect that you're creating is, we get so connected to being those people that want to elevate other people, and maybe they leave us because of that, and we're okay with that. I think the biggest thing is I'm making the compound effect of now those people are going out and they know how amazing they felt because of how you made them feel, that now you've compounded it into other people. And that, the idea is that kind of awareness is going to spread because we know the situation